Alright, hello and welcome to another SMITE guide. Hello and welcome to a comprehensive guide on Muzen. Alright, so Muzen is a hunter, a physical damage god. He is part of the Mayan Pantheon, and he is a very interesting and unique kit. His playstyle is just a little bit unique due to two factors, and those factors are his passive, bees, and his hives. So first of all, the passive bees. It is a radius around your abilities. So it does damage every 0.5 seconds for 2 seconds. Enemies that are affected by bees are revealed on the mini-map, and your basic attacks refresh its duration by 1 second. So if you're stuck to someone, they're going to be getting that bees and your basic attacks, and it all adds up. Alright, so the hive. You placed on this hive, and it's got a circle around it, a very certain radius. It actually says so right here, 90 units of a radius around it, and you can place up to 6, I believe. Yeah, maximum 6 hives. Okay, so it provides attack speed buffs to AMC right here, and he also heals additionally when he's close to hives. And the fun thing you can do with hives is you can overlap them. And it seems like the buffs stack. The description of the ability does not say that it does or does not, but players, including myself, seem to be convinced that they do stack. So you get your healing, you get additional movement speed, and you get additional attack speed, which has got a pretty decent scaling. It's 40% additional attack speed late game, so you drop that hive right behind you and you just fight any enemy that's on you, and yeah, it stacks. So the cool thing about hives is in that area you can cast your abilities. So we've got Swarm, which is a line ability, and it's this cloud of bees basically that you send out. This is your highest damaging ability besides the ult, yes, okay. But this is also one of the easier ones to hit. So you send forth this huge swarm of bees in a line, deals a bunch of damage, and it applies bees. So you get 60 to 280 plus 80% of magical or physical power, and the cooldown is 16 to 12 seconds. This one's got a cooldown of 14 seconds. Building cooldowns on AMC is not important, but definitely doesn't hurt. So next we have Honey, which is a ground target, and it is sort of a spray. So you press 3, and anywhere you point your mouse, you're going to apply this honey, this effect on the ground, which is a tick damage. So let's see here. You spray honey at the ground location, and it slows enemies that are in it. Bees from hives will swarm over and will deal additional damage. So let's see, 0.5 seconds to any enemies as they leave. It's a 20% slow, which is pretty decent, and it has the lowest cooldown of all of AMC's abilities. So I will show you some combos of these abilities. It is very basic. He is a very simple and basic hunter, for the most part. So next is Stinger, which is a line ability. It's got about a 70 unit range. Okay, so sticks to the first god that's hit and applies bees and cripples them for 3 seconds, which is like a super slow. If the target dies, or well, you also can't dash, but if the target dies, or after 3 seconds, the Stinger falls into the ground for 4 seconds. So if they die or they can't get rid of it for 3 seconds, it goes onto the ground. If you pick it up, you get a huge cooldown reduction of, well, right here, 80%. So you mix that with cooldown items, and you pick up the Stinger, and you can be spamming the Stinger left and right, just for fun, basically. Does it apply bees as well? It does apply bees. It does apply bees. Whenever you hit with it, bees instantly. That's 275 to 595 plus 110% of physical power, which is just a little awesome. Just a little awesome. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the jungle training for Muzen.
Amazing car! Achilles returns.
Alright, so now we're going to jump into the guide for... And let's go with...
My victory shall be sweeter than honey.
Okay, so one of the first points I want to go over with Muzen is that he is very tricky to hunter. So if you know what you're doing and you're doing it well, you are overpowered. You are very, very good. And you have a high presence on the battlefield. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, you are completely useless and it is irredeemable. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I'm just being straightforward. If you don't know what you're doing with Muzen, then you don't know what you're doing and you're practically useless. So, I will say that if he's played well, Muzen is amazing and insanely strong, to say the least. The catch is that your only sense of an escape is this movement speed buff you get in these hives. And, yeah, you don't have any CC immunity, you don't have a leap, you don't have a dash. So positioning is incredibly important. I recommend getting beads. Now, hiding the hives is very particular. So in maps like Joust, you're going to want to hide them. Say you've got your mana camp over here, and you've got this round bit of the map that kind of juts out in Joust, and you want to stick this in the mana camp, and that circle is going to overlap into the lane. And then you could do one more over here, off in damage camp, so to speak, for Joust. Conquest, there's so many places to hide hives. Hiding hives in camps is easy enough, especially the harpies that are along each lane. Very, very easy. And the camp monsters aren't going to attack the hives, so... let's see. So, important thing to note is that when I cast abilities within the... And this is his 3, this is the honey ability. When I cast abilities within the hives, the bees will come and attack. If I cast my 2 on an enemy while they are in the honey, it appears to do just additional damage because it actually stacks that bees effect and then gives you additional damage over time. Not to mention that the hives are also summoning bees over to do more damage. And then with the ultimate, you want to stick the landing. 3 seconds later, the stinger will pop out and it will reduce that cooldown significantly. And then you can't forget about your basic attacks. Alright, so that is Muzen with no items. Now, let's get into some builds. So, first things first, I'm going to go over relics. This is something I didn't do in previous videos because I didn't necessarily see the importance in pointing out relics because they're situational, but for the most part, just because of how he works, purification is incredibly important for Muzen. Your choices for the first slot are Purification, Aegis, or Heavenly Wings, and these are the 3 I think you should really be choosing from. If you're playing something like Arena or Joust and you're confident in your ability to play this character, Blink is fully acceptable, actually. And you could even get Sundering Spear for your secondary relic, but for your first relic you want to get Puri or Aegis, and that's just... there's not much else to say besides that. In terms of a build, I normally don't have a starting item on him, as in terms of starters themselves, like the blessings. I typically start Muzen with the Transcendence item. And then I usually build into Warrior Tabby or Ninja Tabby, but this is going to be a damage build, a pure damage build. So we're going to be going with Ninja Tabby, and then Kinsai, and then Rage, Deathbringer, and Titan's Bane. And this will give us the damage that we need to take down our enemies with ease. So we're going to spray her, give her a little bop, and oh, there you go, it's already over. You can see that attack speed buff coming through on the hives, especially when they're all stacked up. So we've got, actually, let's go ahead and see this ultimate's damage. Alright, so I got 76 seconds on the cooldown, 14 seconds on the cooldown, so let's kill her. Alright. So that is the damage build. This is a very basic build. This should work in Arena, this should work in Joust, this should work in... well, it might work in Conquest. Haven't played much AMC in Conquest, but he's very good in Conquest, very potent. So, definitely don't overlook him for that. Now, in terms of a lifesteal build, which is what I'm actually doing next, I would actually start with Hunter's Blessing or Specialist Blessing, because it gives you the bonus movement speed and cooldown reductions are good on AMC, but he's not a very mana-hungry god. He might be a bit in the early game, but it's not that big of a handicap. Regardless, blessings aren't that important for AMC. So we're going to go with your basic start. We're actually going to go with Devourer's Gauntlet because you want to start stacking. And then you go into Warrior Tabby. And then you can do full lifesteal for the first 3 items. And then you can do something like Titan's Bane. And back in Season 4, you would like to look at a build with Hastened in it. But we don't have Hastened anymore. So you're going to want something that can make up for that. And that would be something that can provide attack speed, movement speed, and you got a choice at this point. So you can either go with Aussie to get additional attack speed and physical lifesteal, or since this is normally considered to be a starter item, this isn't something you normally buy late game, you could get something like Ichival or Executioner even. Crusher is more for the damage build, you could switch that out for Kinsai. But once again, movement speed is reasonably important, and ever since they took Fatalis away from us, you know, we're desperate. So I have come up with Witchblade working well, and Atalantis Bow is actually very underrated. You get your 30% attack speed, plus 30 physical power, and plus 10% movement speed, and then you also get that haste effect. So it's like Fatalis Light, which I think was intended. But then you can see I've got my movement speed, and then I get in these hives, and I can move even faster. And then your attack speed and lifesteal are going to keep you alive. You got that Blood Forge for kills, so you got that shield. And that's very basic, you just want to stay on target and keep hitting with your basics. If you can't hit basics, then lifesteal may not be for you. But it's also important to note that if you keep your health up and you've got these kills right here, chances are the enemy won't be able to make a huge dent in your health. Let's see if she'll pop this. Nope. Okay, she didn't pop it. I wanted to see if she'd pop the spindle, but you can see her hitting me with her abilities, and it's chunking away at this shield, and then let's say this is a 1v2 situation, and I've used all of my abilities, and I'm basic attacking. You can see even when she hits me and I don't have that shield, it's still making up for it in the end. It's covering up the health that I'm losing. Now, if you're getting trapped up and bursted and you're completely CC'd, there's nothing you can really do about that. But because of the fact that a Muzen Cop is so important with positioning, you shouldn't be caught out in those situations. And if you are, learn from them. Don't get mad. Now, build 3. This is this is a bit of a meme. This is the solo lane build that I have experimented with in the past. And I like to start Transcendence on this one, and then I'll go Ninja Tabby, Aussie, Kinsai, Rage, and then I'll replace Specialist with Deathburner. But the idea here is in the early game you've got Sustain, so you're building stacks, you've got your movement speed additional and attack speed additional, and then you've got your lifesteal. And this is very good for solo lane, and it's just a very well balanced build. So there's that. Okay. So those are 3 very basic builds. You got a solo build, you got a lifesteal build, and you have the damage build. Damage and lifesteal will work in almost every game mode. The solo lane build could work in arena and joust, maybe even duel, but I don't take hunters into duel because that's just weird for me. There is a very fun build that I personally prefer, that is Ninja Tabby, Ichival, Atalantis Bow, Odysseus Bow, Silver Branch Bow, and Wind Demon. But usually you build Wind Demon before Atalantis, so you would actually do something like this. And if you didn't tell, this is a full attack speed build. So I've got my hives up, I've got my, what was it, 40% extra attack speed, plus the full attack speed. I'm maxed out on attack speed. I think I'm actually gone over with the items I bought. Could probably sacrifice one of them for some more crit, but it's a little ridiculous, especially when there's enemies everywhere and you're hitting them constantly with the Odysseus bow proc. It's pretty tasty. And then to improve upon this build, like I said, you can remove one of these. So I actually remove Silver Branch because it's very weak in most regards. And you can just get Deathbringer or Rage. If we go back in, you can see I'll do a bunch more damage, but I'm still attacking very quickly. And I still have that movement speed and the haste from Atalantis. But another side note, personally, I'm not a fan of Odysseus bow. If I do get Odysseus bow, I get it for the attack speed bonus, not so much for the lightning chain. So you saw this. Get Rage, not Malice. They changed it. Doesn't work as it should anymore, or as it did, I should say. It's more of a what's his name? Hunbat's item now. It's like successful crit strike. Your abilities deal 35% more damage. Yeah, that's build that on Hunbat's or Cirquet. But yeah, so then we've still got 2.46 attack speed, which is 0.04 underneath the maximum, and now we've got our physical power back up to where it would normally be. And if we build these stacks with Rage, we've got more crit, obviously, but if we build these stacks with Rage, which it didn't even stack on that kill, which is annoying actually, because I wanted to show you when it's fully stacked the payout. There we go, so we got 2 stacks. Get this thing up to 5 stacks and I'll be able to show you guys what kind of craziness this thing can do. You can see when you combine all of your damage sources, you can really snowball and get some crazy damage out. Okay, let's do this just because I like to hear him say it. Alright, cool. Okay, so now we have our Rage evolved. And we have crit, we have attack speed, we have hives up. We've gotten a quote-unquote pentakill just for fun. So all of these things combined, there's that stinger. We've got some insane kill time. I think everything combined, including the ult, if you get a good combo, which normally would be 3, 2 basic attacks in between those ability casts, and then you'd want to finish her off with the ult if you want to get that cooldown or that disrespect of getting ulted on. So maybe start off the fight with this for the slow, hit her with that, follow up with basic attacks, and then end her with the stinger. And I'll do that one more time when the cooldowns reset, just for one more demonstration, because it all happens very fast. It's not necessarily AA cancels, but you've got basic attacks mixed in there, and it's just a very effective way of fighting in the game. Very easy to do with Loki, so when I get to him I'll show you. So again, you want to start with a 3, shoot in between, follow up with a 2, and then ult. And keep in mind you're mixing in those basic attacks in the middle. So it will be 3, basic attack, 2, basic attack, 4. Or, you know, how many basic attacks are needed to get them down to that threshold to get it to kill. Which it doesn't have a heartbeat sensor, kind of like Thanatos' ult. It doesn't have an X on it like Akwang. You kind of have to know your damage when it comes to the stinger and hitting it effectively. So that's like saying if I hit Neath up to here, the stinger should kill her. And it didn't, but damage over time might? No. Okay, so it's a very guess type situation. You have to sort of estimate how much damage your stinger does, and in that full damage build it can do up to like 900 damage or something like that. I mean, you can get your crits up high like an assassin when you're playing as a Muzen, but again, this combo with the 3 and the 2 and the basic attacks in the middle, it's just effective. You just gotta mix all of his stuff together. He's one of the few gods where his kit flows completely. Oh, I killed her before I could retrieve the stinger. Whoopsies. But yeah, just keep in mind the basic starting any fight, because your ult's not always going to be up. If you don't pick up that stinger, if you're playing Arena or Conquest, it might not be so easy to get it. So again, this is your basic thing, is mixing those basic attacks in between the 2 and the 3. And that's about it for that. There is one more build, and I like to include a meme build for every one of these guides, and this is an interesting one. So this is actually the build I use for Ho Yi, but I've found that on other hunters it can be a bit ridiculous, and this is actually my modified Ho Yi build, which I'll be showing in the real Ho Yi build in the future, but for now, the modified one. Alright, so Reinforced Greaves, Transcendence, Jotun's Wrath, Hydra's Lament, Shifters, and Bloodforge. And if you cannot see the trash in using this build, I don't know how long you've played this game, but this is a trashy build. This is just a douche build. So your basic attack's going to do a decent amount of base damage. 245 with no crit is pretty good, but your abilities are going to make your basics do even more. Not to mention the 582 you can hit on your crit, which is a decent amount of damage considering that a base Neith doesn't really have that much health because she's Neith. She doesn't even wear any armor, for Christ's sakes. So we are going to cast the Honey, hit there 2, and see... Oh, I cast it early. But you get the idea. It's a trashy build, and then you've got this shield building up down here from Bloodforge, and it's just not fair. In terms of little extra tips or tactics, again with the engaging, you want to cast your 2 to get the slow and the proc on the bees, and then if you hit that, or your 3, sorry, your 3 is the honey, but if you hit your 3 right here like this and get those honeys, the bees on him from the hives, and then you cast your 2, you can extend the duration of bees, and if you keep basic attacking again, you can refresh it. And this stacks with the hives. Again, don't recall if the hives still stack. I feel like they used to, but they changed it because he was ridiculously overpowered. Other than that, there's not much more to say on Muzen. Very basic assassin, very basic god. He's an ADC. You hold down left click, you should win. If you build attack speed and crit, you're fine. But the mechanical side of him, the way his abilities flow, is too much fun for me to ignore when it comes to playing him. I don't like to do the hold left click and win thing because it's just not as fun as actually engaging and enjoying him. So that being said, that concludes this comprehensive guide on Muzen.